Hello and welcome to another video. I hope that you're all very well. Question: when you're stopping, should you put the clutch down first and then the brake? Or should you brake first and then the clutch down? Which one is it? And what's wrong with doing both at the same time? Before we move on to that, it's important that you understand what the pedals do. Firstly, the brake pedal. The purpose of the brake, quite obvious, to slow down and to stop the car. If you didn't know that, then there's something wrong. Now, the clutch. The clutch is a little bit more complicated. What's the purpose of the clutch? Well, in its simplest form, the clutch is there to connect the engine and to disconnect the engine from the wheels. So when the clutch is down, the engine is separated away from the wheels. As you come off the clutch, you are connecting the engine to the wheels. And then the engine will turn the wheels and make the car move. When you put the clutch down, you're separating the engine from the wheels, so the engine is still running. So that's the basic of the pedals. Now, we still need to answer the question as to brake first or clutch first. Let's assume you're driving at 30 miles per hour. You want to stop the car, you put the clutch down. So you're driving at 30 miles an hour, the engine is connected to the wheels, you put the clutch down, and what happens? You're separating the engine from the wheels. The engine is still turning, the wheels are still turning, everything seems fine. But the wheels, the engine is not controlling the wheels. The wheels are just rolling down like a ball rolling down a hill. So the clutch is down, and then you use the brakes to stop the car. Fine. It seemed to have worked well. And this is why a lot of drivers have been putting the clutch down first and braking for many years, because the technique seems to work. Now let's go on to the brake first. You're driving at 30 miles per hour. The engine is connected to the wheels and it's turning. And what you're doing is you're starting to brake. And as you brake, the wheels are stopping, but the engine is still trying to turn the wheels. And then as the car slows down, you put the clutch down and it separates. Therefore, you have the engine still turning, but the wheels have stopped. If you forget to put the clutch down, then the car will stall. Why does the car stall? The car stalls is because we're back to 30 miles an hour. You're driving at 30 miles an hour. You're braking. The engine is connected and everything's fine. As you're braking, you are trying to stop the wheels from turning, but the engine is trying to make them turn. And as you get slower and slower, the engine is still trying to turn them. It'll break apart if you don't get the clutch down in time. So, when should you get the clutch down? The ideal speed, and it's only a rough thing, it varies on different vehicles and it depends on whether you're going uphill or downhill, but as a guideline, it's 15 miles per hour. So, brake first, get the speed down to 15 miles per hour, and then put the clutch down. That is a method that I use, and that is a method that the DVSA recommends. You should brake first, get the speed down, and then put the clutch down. Now the problem is, some people may say to you, every time I've tried to brake first, and before I put the clutch down, the car's already stalled. What do I do? As I said earlier, we brake first, get the speed down to about 15 miles per hour. If your speed is already at 15 miles per hour, for example, you're in slow moving traffic and you want to stop the car, in that case, it should be clutch first and then the brake. If you put the clutch down first, you're separating the engine, and then you can stop the wheels, but the engine is still turning. Now, some of you may say, okay, but what's wrong with putting the clutch down first? That way, I don't need to worry about looking at speed or thinking about when to put the clutch down, thinking about the timing, and I don't need to use different techniques, because what I'm saying you should do is at slow speeds you should put the clutch down first and then brake. If you're already driving at a fast speed, let's say 30 miles per hour, you should brake first, get the speed down to 15, and then clutch down. So back to the question, what is wrong with putting the clutch down first all the time and then braking? It makes no difference whether you're driving at 5 miles per hour, 10 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour. Just put the clutch down and then brake. Let's think about the stopping distance. The purpose of the brake is to slow down that car. If you're driving along at 30 miles an hour and a child runs in front of you, if you brake suddenly, then you put the clutch down afterwards, your car will take 23 meters to stop. That might seem like a lot. In fact, it is a lot. But according to the highway code, that is the time that will take an alert driver with good tyre conditions to stop the car. However, if you went clutch first and then the brake, you will add 10 meters onto that distance. So rather than stopping in 23 meters, you'll be stopping at 33 meters. That's the difference between having an accident and not having an accident. That's the difference between somebody's life. Now, what's wrong with having both at the same time? Because it doesn't matter whether you're driving at 5 miles an hour or 50 miles an hour. If you put both feet at the same time, you don't stall. Well, as I said earlier, when you put the clutch down first, it takes you longer to stop the car. Why does it take you longer? Because you do not have the engine braking. You have less control of the car. So if you're putting both feet at the same time, you're actually having less control. You get more control of the car. The car will stop quicker if you brake first. So brake first and then the clutch. Now, we've spoken about clutch first, we've spoken about brake first, and we've spoken about both of them at the same time. What happens if you brake and don't put the clutch down? Well, let's say you're driving at 30 miles an hour, you brake, and the engine is connected, everything's fine. As you're braking, you're trying to stop the wheels. You're trying to stop the wheels, but the engine is trying to make them turn. And what happens is you stall. So, we've got an emergency situation. You're driving along at 30 miles an hour. A child has run in front of you. You brake first, and you forget to put the clutch down. What's the worst going to happen? The car's going to stall. But at least you've stopped within that 23 meters, and you're going to save that child's life. If you go for the clutch first, it will take you longer to stop the vehicle. If you went both feet at the same time, it is better than putting the clutch first, but it will still take you longer than if you braked first. Yes, you may prevent yourself from stalling, but at what risk? That's something to think about. Well, I hope you found this video to be beneficial. If so, please, as usual, give it a thumbs up. As you know, it helps us to make more videos. Thank you for your time. Take care. Stay safe.